everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the books I read from May 11th to May 17th. First up, I read The OK Witch by Emma Steinkeller, and I gave this book 5 stars. In this book, we follow Moth Hush, who loves all things witchy. She even dresses up as a witch for Halloween. At school, she learns about the dramatic history of the town she lives in, which included some witches way back in the day. This leads to some bullies trying to ruin her Halloween because she's dressed up as a witch. Then, some weird things happen, and she ends up finding out that the dramatic history of her town involves her family. The witches that were mentioned in her teacher's explanation of their town's history happen to be her relatives. She's descended from them, and she is also a witch. Moth is overjoyed to find out that she's a witch, but she soon learns being a witch and having magic isn't as easy as she thought it was. So, I love this book. It's a graphic novel, and so it's a really quick read, but I really enjoyed getting to read about Moth and her excitement about finding out that she's a witch. I liked getting to see Moth and her mom's relationship and her mom's complicated feelings on being a witch and magic in general, and why Moth is only finding out about it now and why she didn't grow up knowing about it. I really liked the family vibes in this book, and getting to see Moth and her relationship with her family and how that develops throughout the novel. I also really liked getting to see Moth become friends with the new boy at school, and there is a cat companion in this book that Moth finds, and I really like him as well. He is quite the character. I just really thought this was a fun read, and I will definitely be reading the next book in the series. Next up, I'm going to group these two together since they're part of the same series, and that is Ghost to the Rescue and Ghost Times 2 by Carolyn G. Hart. I gave both these books 4 stars. These are part of the Bailey Ruth mystery series. So in this series, Bailey Ruth is an emissary of the Department of Good Intentions, which essentially means she's a ghost sent down to her hometown of Adelaide to help out a living being who is in need. In Ghost to the Rescue, a girl wishes on a star for help for her mother, and Bailey Ruth is dispatched to help her mother out because Wiggins can't ignore a girl wishing for help for her mom. Originally, Bailey Ruth is there to help the mom find inspiration for the mystery novel that she's writing. Unfortunately, she is soon a suspect in a man's murder who she had a disagreement with earlier in the day, so Bailey Ruth must figure out who actually killed the man and clear the little girl's mom's name. In Ghost Times 2, Bailey Ruth is sent to help Jimmy, a ghost, leave his earthly life behind, but he is reluctant to leave his living girlfriend. His girlfriend, Megan, ends up having more problems than just being haunted by her dead boyfriend. After trying to quit her job at a law firm, she is forced to stay by her boss to protect a secretary she knows really needs the job, as her boss says, well, if you leave, we'll have to fire the secretary. Later, he turns up dead and Megan is found at the crime scene and becomes the number 1 suspect. So Bailey Ruth and Jimmy have to work together to uncover who is trying to set Megan up and get her out of the sticky situation she has found herself in. So I'm still really enjoying these books. I like that in Ghost to the Rescue, Bailey Ruth shows up because a little girl wishes on a star, and it just so happens that it is the perfect timing, as her mom is now wrapped up in a murder. I liked getting to see Bailey Ruth try to suss out who was behind the murder and how the mom played into the greater story. And of course, the idea that she is terrified that she's going to get arrested and it's going to affect her daughter, and she also has a son, and Bailey trying so hard to prevent that from happening adds a nice little twist to the story, as I don't think any of the other books have involved a parent to a young child. In Ghost Times 2, I thought it was interesting that she's working to try to get Jimmy to essentially go to heaven, to leave Earth behind, and he is reluctant to do so because he just loves his girlfriend so much. And he wants to continue to be with her, and his life was cut short when he was so young. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I guess, for Megan's case, they just happen to be there when Megan finds herself as the number 1 suspect. And it is interesting to watch Bailey Ruth try to keep things under control when Jimmy is doing his own thing and she doesn't have as much control over him, and sometimes that makes her job harder. Yeah, I enjoyed both of these books and am looking forward to continuing on with the series. Next up, I read Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas, and since this is one of my 5-star predictions, you'll have to wait for my wrap-up to find out if I gave it 5 stars or not. This book is a Peter Pan retelling. It's 5 years after Wendy and her brothers went missing in the woods, and Wendy was the only one to return. When other kids start going missing, Wendy and her brother's disappearance becomes a topic of conversation again. Wendy then finds an unconscious boy who turns out to be Peter Pan. The same Peter Pan she believes is a fictional character from stories that her mother told her when she and her brothers were little that she then ended up telling to her brothers as they got older. Unfortunately, he is very real, and he tells her that if they don't work together, the missing kids will end up just like her brother. So Wendy has no choice but to confront the past and find out what happened to her and her brothers when they went missing. So yeah, look out for my 5-star prediction wrap-up, which will be coming a few months from now because I just did a new round of 5-star predictions, but look out for that if you want to know my thoughts on this book. And if it sounds interesting, I will tell you that I didn't hate it. So if it sounds interesting, I'd suggest you try it out. Next up, I read Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge, and I gave this book 2 stars. In this book, we follow Liberty, who is a free black girl in the Reconstruction era. Her mom is a doctor who has a vision that one day the two of them will work together, but Liberty isn't sure that's what she wants. We follow her life as she tries to decide what she wants out of it. So this is a very character-driven novel, and there's really no plot to it. Like, I really did expect there to be more from this book, and I kept waiting for us to get to the hook, the plot, the story. And really, all it is just a story of Liberty's life and the choices she makes and where she goes from there. And I unfortunately was not invested in her story. This story just didn't hook me. It didn't draw me in. And I just didn't care. I thought about DNFing it, and I didn't. And in hindsight, I probably should have because I didn't really enjoy this book. And I could have been reading something that maybe I would have enjoyed more. But if you're really into character-driven novels and you like historical fiction and the premise sounds interesting, then maybe give it a go because maybe you'll like it more than I did. But I needed more of a plot to keep me invested in the story, and it just didn't have it. Next up, I read The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. In this book, we follow Daisy, and in a bid to put off her well-meaning but meddlesome aunts, she pretends to have a fiancé. The only problem with that is she picks Liam, who was her brother's best friend when they were growing up, and also broke Daisy's heart. Liam agrees to go along with this because he needs to get married to fulfill the terms of his late grandfather's will. The will basically says that the distillery that's their family business will only be left to Liam if he gets married before his next birthday, which is only 2 months away. So Daisy and Liam agree to a fake marriage. This gets Daisy's meddlesome relatives off of her back, and Liam will get the distillery. They set up fake dates to make the relationship seem more real, and during these dates, they both develop feelings that are less than fake and kind of have to try to deal with that. So this is the kind of romance book I like. It didn't have all the steamy, smutty, explicit sex scenes, which I cannot stand in my romance novels. I love the fake dating trope, and it was interesting to see the complications in this one of Liam has broken Daisy's heart in the past, and we don't know the full story behind it. We know Daisy's point of view of it, but we can tell very quickly from Liam's that there is far more to the story than what Daisy knows. It is very interesting to see that dynamic play out in these books, and to watch Daisy and Liam reconnect and get to know each other all over again and see the similarities and differences between the people they are now and the people they were when Daisy and Liam were younger. I also really enjoyed the family vibes of this book and how much Daisy's family cared for her, and on the flip side, Liam wasn't really close to his family, and how that affected both of them in their own lives, but how Daisy's family being so close affected Liam, and how Liam not being close to his family affected Daisy. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I will definitely be checking out more by Sarah Desai. And lastly, I read The Hidden Oracle by Rick Riordan, and I gave this book 5 stars. This is the first book in the Trials of Apollo series. This book follows the events of both the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus series, so I can't say too much because There are definitely spoilers for both of those series in this one. But basically, we are following the god Apollo, who has been punished by his father Zeus and turned back into a mortal. He's had all his godly powers stripped away. He then makes his way to the only place he can think of that will be safe for him, and that is Camp Half-Blood. And once there, he has to try to figure out how to get his godly powers back. I really, really liked this book. I think it might be my favorite book of all of the books so far in the kind of Percy Jackson universe. I think Apollo is such an interesting protagonist because this whole book is told from his point of view, and I really enjoyed getting to spend time in his head and see things from his perspective, as this is the first time we've had the POV of a god. Every other character whose perspective we've been in has been a demigod, so I really enjoyed getting to see a different perspective on the Percy Jackson universe as a whole and the characters that we encounter that are familiar to us. I will definitely be continuing on with the series, and I can't wait to see what happens to Apollo and everybody next. So these are some of the books I've read recently. What is a book you've read recently? If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a volcano emoji, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!